Went to Costa Rica. We flew Air Transat, and we went to a small little town near the Panama border called Les Milizas. We went there to build a bunkhouse and add on more to the church that was built last year. I prayed about it with God for weeks prior, just asking God to help me be a better Christian and get closer to Him and to help serve. Then I seen all the mission trips, and Costa Rica caught my eye, and I was just like, oh, that'd be kind of neat. And I think a week later, Dave Loveday sent me a text message saying, hey, do you want to go to Costa Rica? Looked to my wife Christine and said, how do you feel about me going to Costa Rica? And she's like, well, if you feel that's what you want to do or that's what you need to be, have at it. So I text Dave back saying, sure, I'm in. I feel a lot closer to Jesus. There's that more of a faith, trust bond. It's always been there, but I guess it was kind of on rocky grounds, but now it's just like, now it's solid ground. Had church in the bunkhouse that we built in 3 days for them, and you could just feel God's presence at that moment. It was just so strong and just so surreal. It felt like you're walking into a different world. I went there with an open heart, open mind. Thought I was going there to build a church, but clearly there was more to it. And like I could see the love that he had for his wife. Just the way he was talking to his wife. It was all in Spanish, but you could feel the power and the passion that he had for his wife. And it was just sitting there, and it was just like, aha. There, it was just one of those God-felt moments going, that's it. That's why I'm here. I'm here to build a church, but I'm also here for life lessons. To love my wife more, and just to be able to be more open and just being more helpful, more loving. Like I love my family, but there's just that other step that I learned, that there's more love to give, right? And it was like a light went off. It was just like, that's it. Take the leap of faith, just go with it. Just go wherever that next trip is going. Just have an open mind, open heart, mingle with the people, get to know them, and just do it. It's just plain and simple. Just don't be scared. Yes, it is nervous going and thinking about this, but you're going over there to serve God, and He's going to take care of you back home, or whatever's back home, family or whatever. Like, He'll take care of you. Just go.
Aaron Verhan, and I've been coming to Bethel for just under 10 years now. I'm 20 years old. Well, it was the second week after 151 is announced, and I was reading the back of the bulletin, and I was going through all the trips, and I looked at this one, and it caught my eye, and I circled it, and I went up to Tom asking if he had any room left on the trip, and there was one spot left, and I said I'm gonna come. I don't know, it was just something that I felt that was pushing on my heart, and I couldn't say no. I would believe God is working my heart to do that, and I've always wanted to do a trip, and I always wanted to do work in His name, and I've just never had the opportunity, and as soon as this all came along, it was like, I think this is my calling right now. So our trip was to go and build a house in Cuba, but with our religious visas got denied, which means we wouldn't be allowed to do any work in Cuba. So that means we wouldn't be allowed to build the house. We ended up going around to multiple churches that the water filters for 122 ministries are being built at. And we ended up connecting with a lot of people through all these trips and talking to a lot of pastors. We brought on 2 new pastors over in Cuba, and now they're sponsored as well. I believe it turned out better because we were able to build more relationships with more people. So on Thursday, we ended up going to a pastor named Pastor Joe and his family. Their house was mostly destroyed during the hurricane. Both of his boys are 6 and 1, and they both have one of them has a disease and one of them has a bump on the back of his head, and they both need medical attention. And before the trip, I was given money to give to someone throughout the trip that I found needed it the most. And as soon as I came across that family, it instantly struck me that I need to give this money to them to help with their medical expenses. His son ends up getting sick quite severely when the temperature changes, and somehow, some way, I ended up having Advil cold and sinus in my backpack. My mom ended up giving that to me, and I was never originally going to take it because I'm like, that is the stupidest thing ever. I've never taken Advil cold and sinus. I've never needed it on any trip I've ever been on. For some reason, I ended up taking it, and for some reason, I ended up putting it in my backpack that day on Thursday. Don't know why I chose that day. And I'm like, well, this wasn't meant for me. So I ended up giving to the pastor, and after the money and the medicine that we gave to the pastor, he gave me a hug like a father would. I believe God taught me that I not take things for granted and how easily I have access to simple things around here which they do not, and to trust in the Lord more and to always keep an eye out for things He's trying to teach me. So Tom Hunt, Brian Dyke, and myself just came back from Cuba in August, and the most memorable moment was on Sunday when I remembered, because I was going to ask Tom earlier, hey, what about getting baptized in Cuba? So I wrote on my phone and just handed it to Tom, and I'm like, is it possible that I can get baptized in Cuba? And he just looks at me, yep, we can do that. So we ended up going to Punta de Maisi, which is where we stayed, which was really cool because Cuba and Punta de Maisi now feels like home to me.
Yeah, for me, as Aaron's former youth pastor, it always warms my heart to know that even years ago you made some kind of an impact. I'm a firm believer that a part of our spiritual journey should include a mission trip. He accomplished that in February, was doing part 2 now in August, and now in part 2 saying I want to be obedient to the point of now baptism. And even talking to Aaron, he recognizes that this mission trip, this commitment he made, pushed him towards even this commitment now of following God in the area of baptism.
I have been a Christian my entire life and grew up in a Christian home. When I was 4 years old, I asked Jesus into my heart. I always knew that God has been there for me and has always helped me through the troubles in my life. God has always been speaking to me, and I try my best to listen, but it is hard. This time, I did listen. In March of 2018, I went with 122 Ministries to Cuba. It was such an amazing experience to see God work through Tom and his ministry. The trip really spoke to me in so many ways, which is why I decided to go on a second trip this year, and decided to get baptized in the place that feels like home to me. One of my favorite verses is Psalms 20 verse 7. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. And without trust in the Lord, how can anything be accomplished? Trust in the Lord, and He will show you the way.